And we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. And today we are doing our Star Trek Discovery Season 2 recap. And I'm so pleased to be joined by Trekkie Rob and Trek on the Tube. So Rob and Sean respectively. Hello.
Hi.
And the audience has witnessed me in various states of disarray. And today I have allergies, so this is just another another in a series here. I guess we're not going to do like really deep dives into each episode here, but just to kind of go through to kind of remind the audience what each episode is. I'm gonna let's try to do like a quick what was that episode about in like a couple of sentences, right? So and then you could just I didn't have time to go back and like see what all the ratings were, but since it's the three of us and Rob, you weren't there for each of them, it'll be interesting to just hear what, like, you don't have to give it like a number if you don't want to, but just did you like the episode, did you not like the episode, or things like that. So all right, so the season started out with Brother. We meet Captain Pike. He takes over the ship. What else happens? Oh yeah, and they rescue Reno from the Hiawatha. Yeah, so and then also it sets up everything about the season with the Red Bursts. We get 7 of them that kind of appears simultaneously. The Enterprise went to investigate, and when it tried to scan, something happened and they had a catastrophic malfunction, and that's why Pike has to commandeer the Discovery. And then we start with this one signal that's persistent at an asteroid that's kind of like an asteroid that's flying out of its orbit or something like that. And then when the Discovery finds it, they do some scanning, and it creates like some kind of like magnetic distortion, which causes the asteroid to shift towards the sun that it was orbiting. And so they only have like 3 hours to go down and investigate, and they find Reno on there. Pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good episode. I remember just being like really oh, Discovery started off with a bang in season 2. Yeah. I remember thoughts of like, I wish season 1 was started like this, but I mean, season 1, to be fair though, did start out pretty awesome. I remember being really excited because of Captain Georgiou, but then she dies. So what do you guys remember about this episode?
Tick Notaro stands out in my mind as that's the one thing I remember the most about that episode.
Yeah, her introduction
she was just awesome. Yeah,
absolutely.
This was kind of, it felt like, because at this point Discovery had the pilot, and then it had episode 3 in season 1, which felt like kind of a second pilot because we found the Discovery, and this felt like yet another pilot. It felt like they were beginning anew. And I was really happy with kind of like the even if the episode isn't the best episode of Star Trek out there, you can feel that there's a tonal shift, and they're really trying to build towards something that resembles the Star Trek that I suppose I'm accustomed to. And I was really happy to see Reno. I thought that she might have, I don't know, I was afraid that maybe she would be a bit too much, but it turned out she was really funny. And at that point I was really hyped to see a lot more of her.
They really skimped on us with Reno, but she did go to the future at the end, so who knows? Maybe we'll get a lot more of her next season.
I must say that I was confused from the get-go, because there were like 7 red signals that appeared, and then I didn't quite understand why they went to that one. Like, did the signal reappear? Was it a new one? And I was already quite confused by the signals at that point, because I didn't know if like they already knew all the coordinates or if they were waiting for new ones.
It's really kind of not certain or clear. I think even it's one of the critiques I have for the whole season, is that like there are certain things that aren't really explained. I don't mind using my imagination to fill in the gaps, and I think there's some novels coming out that might fill in some gaps too, but But of course, those who prefer having it on screen and stated are going to be left frustrated. So yeah, I understand that. I remember to answer that question from my memory, it seemed like because Captain Pike was like, this signal is being persistent for some reason. So I think it reappeared, or the other ones disappeared maybe, and that one just stayed. I'm not, but again,
Yeah,
unclear.
I have a vague recollection of that.
Oh, okay.
So
I think the episode was good. Sorry, it was just a bit long, and I think the pacing was affected by that one kind of scene where they were all racing through the asteroids in those little shuttles there, and those kind of speedsters or whatever it was, and that's something I personally wasn't a fan of. I know that some people really did enjoy it, but I thought that just kind of slowed down the episode a bit.
I'm pretty sure I gave it a 10.
Oh God.
I'm pretty sure like most episodes this season got a 10 out of me.
Do we have to go over the ratings that we gave?
No, I didn't have time to go and collect it. Oh, but you keep track, right? Of the ones you gave.
I kind of keep track, but then I only rated the well, I kept on rating the episodes by my own, like on my.
Oh, so yeah, that'll be actually good to hear your ratings. So.
If you're interested.
What was your rating for Brother? I mean, New Eden's. I mean, yeah, Brother. That Brother. Oh, I left out something big. Of course, we get the whole first half of the season is focused on Where's Spock. So it's like that they set that up, and I like that too because they kept our mouths watering for quite a few episodes.
You had that moment where Pike beams on with Narn and
Connolly,
the science officer, and you have that the camera's like
Connor,
the view of his ear.
Right.
Like, oh, that's not Spock.
Yeah, they really.
That was the first one that they did. They did a lot of those throughout the season, and it got a bit annoying. But the first one was really great. I think it was everyone expected Spock, and it wasn't. It was just that other guy that we've all found a connection to. We all reckon that we seen him in the cage. So yeah, that was great.
It was really great. All right, so Brother was overall fantastic. New start to season 2. Then we get. Oh, by the way, that was directed by Alex Kurtzman himself, and the story was by Ted Sullivan, Gretchen Berg, and Aaron Harberts. New Eden was the follow-up, the second episode, directed by the extraordinary, lovely Jonathan Frakes. And that story was by Akiva Goldsman and Sean Cochran. And I guess they made a distinction here to point out that the teleplay was written by Vaughn Wilmot and Sean Cochran. So that's interesting that I guess Akiva Goldsman just kind of helped come up with the story. But one of you guys want to talk about New Eden, what it's about, basically?
Having us do like episode recaps now, are you?
But just like a quick, like quicker than I did for Brother.
Basically, from what I recall, because I haven't rewatched the season recently, but from what I recall, essentially the USS Discovery, which has now been taken over by Pike, are off to like the second signal, which takes them kind of far away off in the Beta Quadrant, to a planet where they find a colony of humans that should not be there at all. There's like a chapel that's been displaced. They find out that the chapel came from like I don't know when the Third World War was, sometime just before First Contact. And then what happens? Oh, they get that. Well, so basically they exchange. Pike exchanges some information. He exchanges like a power cell for some information or some footage in regards to the temporal to the displacement by the Red Angel.
So exactly, yeah, they were following another red signal thing. It's also the first time Pike experiences the spore drive, and they do like a funny thing where they're like, where he's like, if you had told me that such a thing existed, I would have been like, I don't know, it was some kind of joke or something. It was really funny. I remember.
Saru says something like, "You never forget your first time."
First time or something. Yeah, it was funny. But also interestingly, yeah. So like, they learn from the church that like the Red Angel is it, transplanted them to this time, and they find out that there's footage of the Red Angel on on the like a head cam that a soldier had from back in the day. And so apparently these people, because they were diverse, created a brand new religion based on pretty much every religion of Earth, and it was kind of strict and kind of conservative. It was like a hard like a pretty hardcore religion. Burnham and Pike have their debate about religion versus science, I guess, in a way, or faith versus logic or something like that. And yeah, overall it was a really great episode. I think the thing that stood out the most was the character who kind of kept the signal going for 200 years, the distress signal that the Discovery was able to hone in on. And then of course Pike, this person, they all thought Earth was destroyed in World War III, and Pike kind of proves to him that it wasn't by revealing that they're from Earth, and he gives him that little battery cell, as you said. So yeah, it was I liked it. I thought that episode was pretty poignant. I'm dripping here, guys. Sorry. This is the worst episode recap of Starfleet, but it's so unprofessional. I'm gonna mute myself while I blow my nose, but if you guys will go over like, did you like the episode, etc.
Rob?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I mean, it seems to be one of those ones that everyone raves about. That it seems really popular, high up in the rankings. It seems more of like the old style exploration type episodes where you've got the crew beaming down to the planet. And I really liked. This was the first episode of season 2 where, well, I kind of got a hint that they were exploring more of the bridge crew, like the characters that we don't see so much. So you see, I think, is it Awasakan goes down with Burnham and Pike, and she kind of has a bit more to do on Terra Elysium, which was kind of cool. But yeah, I thought it was a really good episode.
I agree. And then the whole scene between Jacob and Pike, I think was the standout for me. It was just fantastic seeing that this character kind of, he now knows that what he's believed for so long is true, but that's all he needed. He's not asking to leave the planet. He's not asking, for any kind of special treatment. Just the relief of knowing that he's been right and that he's not crazy.
Right,
it was,
and his family,
it was very well acted.
Family. His ancestors have been keeping the torch lit, so to speak.
Exactly. The performance was great.
Yeah, it was cool. Very cool. I think I gave that a 10 as well, if I recall my rating. I really threw off the ratings this season. It's like
once we get back to TNG, how are you gonna deal with the ratings now?
I think I made this disclaimer before. My ratings are just emotions. They're not. They're relative. They're not meant to be against the whole continuity. It's like I know you try to do that, which is really awesome, but I couldn't keep all that in my head. I got to go with my gut. Speaking of gut, we get Point of Light next, which is the Klingon. No, that's the Klingon episode, basically. And I think there's a thing with where we learn that Spock. Oh yeah, Spock escapes from the what do you call it? Like the asylum, basically, and or psychiatric unit, I think is what they call it in the the crazy place. And they chase down the if I'm not mistaken, this is the episode where that awesome scene where they chase down the shuttle and disable it, but which is kind of a cool nod. They're about to go into the nebula. Is it the Mutara Nebula? I don't think so, but it was like a nebula they were about to go into. And although they mentioned the Mutara Nebula at some point in the season, if I recall correctly. But anyways, it turns out to be Giorgio, and we get kind of the Section 31 reintroduction here. as well. And or was this the one where Giorgio goes to Laurel and steals her kid?
I think that's the end of it, isn't it? I think.
Yeah,
When,
that's the end of it.
That's right. Okay, that's right.
Anyway, you get Kolshar in this one. Kate Mitchell
that's
comes
right.
back.
And then you get the dramatic scene where she like holds the fake baby head, and the fake Tyler head tosses it into the depths of the Klingon chamber there. That's right.
We finish the episode finishes somewhere like in orbit of Boreth,
right?
Where they place the kid,
and then Tyler joins Section 31, and we get Leland also, who we get his introduction, and then we find out that he knows Captain Pike later and stuff like that. So yeah, that was pretty good. I thought that was a pretty good episode too. It wasn't as good. I probably gave this one like a 9.5 if I recall correctly. What were your general impressions of this episode?
It's I think it tends not at the time necessarily, but as the season went on, it kind of ranks towards the bottom. Not saying that it's not a good episode; it's just not as good as
the others.
Some of the other episodes. But it was great to see Laurel, and see her with hair.
Yeah, actually, I love the. I know it's not like as like it doesn't kind of address all my qualms with the redesigned Klingons, but I have to admit, with the hair, I was so much less bothered by the Klingons. And then even later, like I think someone pointed out, later in the season, they started making or introducing Klingons that are even more like what the later Klingons are going to be like. So it was good. I thought it was good.
And you have that cool fight scene with Tyler and Laurel against Kolshar's people. And he has that weird device that kind of paralyzes them.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And then of course
that's when Giorgio comes in.
Or Emperor Giorgio comes in and saves the day, which I thought was like a little bit like Big Trouble in Little China. She looked a little bit like or Raiden from Street Fighter. In that weird alien suit. Yeah, so what about you, Sean? Do you remember what you liked about, or if you liked it or not?
I enjoyed a lot of the visuals, like a lot of the Kronos visuals, and I thought that like the episode title, Point of Light, and how it references, when Kalis said look up at that point of light, that's all be, and it's Boreth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was all very, very good. It's just the episode in itself, I think, reminded me a bit too much of what I didn't like in season 1. It was all just dragging all of these plots from season 1 that I wanted to get rid of. At this point, I didn't want to see Laurel anymore. I didn't want to see Tyler. I thought like they served their purpose to me, and I didn't really know where they were going with them. And the Klingon, kind of like the Klingon redesign or whatever they did, that didn't work for me at all. It just made things worse. It makes no sense that Laurel would undergo like major plastic surgery between 2 seasons. It's not just the hair, but then all of the other Klingons are the same. The problem is not the hair again, but we're not going to go into detail with that. They tried. They listened to the fans, which was great. It's just the fans were saying something stupid, so it's not on CBS. I suppose it's on the fans this time.
What? CBS 0, fans 1. I know CBS 1, fans 0. No, I'm just kidding. Like, it's not.
Well, no one. Everyone's 0 because
zero.
CBS. The Klingons hideous in the first place, but
but there was no Red Angel thing happening in this episode, and then there was wasn't there like anyways, next we get the episode An Obol for Charon, or Charon. I'm not sure how to say it, or Sharon. Charon. But in that episode, they're still searching for Spock. And then they come across as they're pursuing him, they come across a giant sphere, which is both biological and technical somehow. And apparently it's been and it's like almost the size of a moon or something. It's pretty big, and it's been going around the galaxy for 100,000 years or something like that, collecting data. And so Pike has to the first quandary is that Pike has to decide to let go of Spock, because everyone's like, hey, this is like our core mission is to like explore. And so they decide to stop and take a look at the sphere, and it turns out to wreak havoc with their systems, and everyone thinks there's a virus infecting the Discovery. But through Saru's kind of empathy, he connects with the sphere, and he starts what is it called, the Vihari, which is what he thought was the death process of his people, and that's when they would be harvested by the Baul. But the Vihari, and so he's like asking Burnham to do a mercy killing, which I'm like surprised that he couldn't just inject himself. It's kind of horrifying, because as far as he couldn't just inject himself with like something that would make him fall asleep.
It's realistic, the same way Worf, asks.
Oh yeah, I guess so. That's true.
Kill him. It's part of tradition, I suppose.
I guess because he tells her she has to cut his ganglia, right?
Yeah, but he pulls out a very like ornate kind of traditional knife.
Yeah.
So I think it's all to do with his culture.
Right, that's true. I'm about to sneeze, so. Ah!
He's dying over there.
Hopefully not going through Vihari. Just a cold.
It's definitely it's definitely not the Vihari, but hopefully I hope I'm not dying over here. But anyways,
I deal with having to kill you because that's your request. I don't know. I don't know how I could deal with
that. But luckily, in the nick of time, his ganglia fall out, and then Saru realizes that his people have been lied to this whole time, and he gets pretty pissed off about it. But also, before that, they're able to realize that the sphere was not infecting the ship with a virus. It was trying to download its consciousness or its information or its data onto the Discovery. And so they're able to do that, and then the sphere actually protects the Discovery as it explodes, which is also cool. I loved all the science in this episode. I thought it was a 10, I'm pretty sure, and I just liked that it was like a pretty hardcore science fiction episode. And again, I didn't realize this till the season's kind of over now, but it seems like even though we had the Red Angel plot and the signals and everything, and even with Spock, they still managed to bring in a lot of these really cool science fiction kind of ideas and concepts, like New Eden, and then this one as well. So
and
I like this
season. They did quite a lot of that.
Yeah, so I like that a lot.
I'm thinking back at this now that we've seen the entire. So this isn't something that I could have possibly thought up, when the episode came out. But now that I'm thinking of it, now that we've seen all of this, there's a whole problem with the fact that the sphere data is in the USS Discovery, etc., etc. But I mean, with all the time travel shenanigans, couldn't they have just time traveled to made sure that the Discovery never actually met the sphere? Wouldn't that have solved the whole control thing? If the sphere at the first place had been destroyed, or the sphere had just never met the Discovery, Discovery would never would have downloaded the data in the first place, and then Control never would have had the option to evolve.
Burnham's mom actually put this Discovery in the sphere's path, or changed the orbit of the sphere to be in the Discovery's path, because she, in all the other scenarios, Section 31 got to the sphere first, apparently. So that was Dr. Burnham's. That was addressed. So she says, okay, I thought changing this would solve everything, but it doesn't, because when she gets when she goes back to her future point, Control has still done its mischief. So she does say that in the episode where they capture her.
Okay, so this was the 1 in 14 million.
This was the Doctor Strange. Oh wait, we can't. Sorry, we almost spoiled.
That's Infinity War.
That's true. That's true. But we can't. This no, don't go there.
This is Discovery.
Star
I
Trek.
quite enjoyed this.
With that.
I quite enjoyed this episode. The same way New Eden reminded me of some original series episodes. This reminded me of like some TNG style episodes. We find like a space anomaly, or not a space anomaly, but something floating around, and we try to figure out
like
what
a
it
space
is.
amoeba or a
And
planet eater.
They're creating problems with the universal translator. If you think about it too much, it's a bit weird what it does to the universal translator. But on screen, it was very effective. And yeah, there was. I legit thought they were going to kill Saru, which is it doesn't happen often to me. I don't get fooled. But at this point, I don't know why. I thought he was slated for another TV show, and then he was taken out of that TV show. And then he had no movies coming, and then they were killing him off. And I thought maybe Doug Jones is like just taking a hiatus or something. And I got worried, and I was like, oh my God. And I legit thought they were going to kill Saru. So they fooled me.
He's sticking around. That's good.
Yes,
yeah, but I got
very
fooled
happy.
too.
And we had the whole mycelial spore thing with Tilly attaching itself to her, and I think at the end of this episode she gets
that's right.
kind of
Gosh,
eaten by it.
It's crazy how much is packed into each episode, isn't it?
It really is, yeah.
Jeez, wow. Okay, yeah, you're right. That was also in this episode, which leads into
she gets engulfed in that cocoon or whatever.
What's that?
She gets engulfed in the cocoon, or is that
not yet?
No, I think it's at the end of this episode. She goes.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Yeah, because they're working on the sphere solution at the same time, and when Burnham comes down to engineering, that's what makes her realize, oh, we've been approaching this the wrong way, because they're both trying to communicate with these weird aliens. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Weird aliens. Look at me. I'm such a Homo sapiens only club here. The very word human is racist. To quote Azit Burr. Saints of Imperfection is the next one. By the way, sorry, I should have pointed out that Point of Light was directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi and was written by Andrew Colville, and then An Obol for Charon was directed by Lee Rose, and that was a story by Jordan Nardino, who I tagged Sean in to follow because he's a writer and he's pretty cool. He seems cool. But the teleplay was by Alan McElroy and Andrew Colville. So Jordan Nardino and Gretchen Berg came up with the story for that one. So going to Saints of Imperfection, which is the next episode, directed by David Barrett and written by Kristen Bayer. And that one came out the day before Valentine's Day. Anyways, so this is the one where I really like this episode because I remember it just was like, I thought it was a cool concept how like the Discovery looked like it had run aground into like in the coral reef or something like that, and it was just like kind of really far
half in,
out.
half out, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that's what happened. So they realized that Tilly's been taken into the mycelial network, and so they concoct this plan to have the Discovery jump halfway into the mycelial network, and Stamets and Burnham go in to rescue her. And you know, they do find her, but then surprise, surprise, they also find Dr. Culber, who's been trapped in the mycelial network and has been slowly going crazy. But then the mycelial network aliens say that like he basically that basically he can't leave the mycelial plane because he'll just turn into spores. But May, who was Tilly's friend, transported Tilly using this like organic transporter that was able to reconstitute her on the mycelial side, and May was hoping to use that to come back into our reality, but she ends up giving up that opportunity to Dr. Culber, and so we get our Dr. Culber back at the end of this episode. So yeah, pretty crazy, cool, far out episode. And then Section 31 plays a part in this episode. Of course, they've been following the Discovery dressed as an asteroid or something like that.
As
What
one
was
does.
that, Sean? As one does.
As one does. And you just follow people around. This guy's this rock.
Sir, this asteroid's been following us.
Look, I gotta say that they do something similar in Enterprise. Well, the Romulans do something similar in Enterprise. The Romulans have this kind of drone that they're piloting, which has holographic tech all around it, and so the drone can disguise itself as like various ships. And so we've seen something similar, and to see that Section 31 are kind of doing that with their own ship, it kind of makes sense. Like, of course, maybe Section 31 have found Romulan tech on a black market or something.
Right. And then Leland, I think, was it in this episode where he assigns Tyler to the Discovery, I think, right? As a liaison. And I think we get the Admiral in this episode too, right? Doesn't she come in and basically tell them to behave because they're fighting with each other, Pike and Leland?
Oh yeah, she gives Pike and Leland a bit of a talk.
A little dressing down.
Because they disagree with each other for various reasons. I know quite a lot of people didn't like this episode. I did. I thought it was cool to go into the spore, like the mycelial network. It was a bit too blue. Everything is very blue, but I did quite like the visuals. And I did think it was a pretty interesting concept to have like the ship as in like basically shipwrecked in space between these two planes of existence. It reminded me of what's it called? In Voyager. Rob, you know what I'm talking about.
I don't think I do.
Species 8472.
Fluidic space.
Fluidic space, that's it. It reminded like it's if you were like stuck between normal space and fluidic space. So it gave me those kind of vibes.
Since like the spore drive and like the mycelial network and all that's been classified and all that stuff, do you think fluidic space might be the mycelial network, like rediscovered somehow?
I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't gotten that far in Voyager yet, so I can't.
I don't know. No, it's visually very different, and I like the beings that exist in the mycelial network like simply cannot be compared to species 8472, and I wouldn't see that kind of evolution in such a short span of time.
Well, we only meet the spore like creatures, but there could be lots of different kinds of life in the mycelial network. But maybe not.
Don't know. Who knows?
And speaking of who knows, next we get the Sound of Thunder, which I thought was a really awesome episode, even though it like raised some interesting debates regarding like the decision that the Federation or that Pike made to liberate all the Kelpians of their bondage with in one fell swoop. He like forces everyone to go through the Vihar Eye. But I really like this episode because it kind of tied into the short track, and like even though it's like I think Saru's story is really developed nicely because he is definitely one of the focal characters, and it was really nice to kind of see it come full circle, and we get to meet his sister, and I thought the actress who portrayed her was excellent. What was the name of her character?
Sirana.
Yeah, Sirana is a great addition, I thought. And basically, again, I had a couple of problems with it. Like, I didn't like that they reused the transporter set for the Baul bridge, like things like that. But I mean, again, those
that bothered you both.
I guess it did.
You guys didn't like that?
It was obvious. I didn't really care, but it was quite obvious that it looked.
It wasn't like a deal breaker for the episode. It wasn't like I hate this episode. Like it was just something that I wish.
Obvious a redress, in your opinion?
It was really obvious, but I also thought like why was everything in that one room? Like, why could, like, I just think it would have been great if Saru at least went into the corridor and then like disabled the ship's, use the ship's technology to do, like just like everything, just all the action took place in the one room, and I don't know, it was like a, I get it because like,
especially considering the ships are so like big and long, and
yeah, I mean, like,
the ships are huge.
well, that whole thing was huge. It was like Stargate Atlantis. It like came out of the water and it was like a whole city. You know what I mean? Like, so I just thought it was odd that everything was centralized. But maybe that's why the bubble lost, right? Because they're kind of, they don't they don't think, they're like, we don't have to worry about anything. We're the dominant species now.
And we waited so long to see what the bowl are like, and it just turns out it's armors from
Yeah, it's true.
No, I'm only kidding.
I really like the design, actually. It did remind me
they were
of
really
armors.
they were creepy.
They were. It was a great episode, I found. I know that a lot of people disagreed with Pike and his decision, but I don't know. I think it was like the captain's call, I suppose. And he made that decision, and ultimately it's one of the few episodes of the Discovery that got me talking about like the theme, rather than like nitpicking the plots and what have you. I was just thinking about all of the implications that the story has and what have you. I remember that Pike was written a bit differently in this episode. Like the people that wrote this episode, I think it's Boyon Kim and Erica Lippold.
It was. That's correct. Very good. And it was directed by Douglas Arniokoski.
I felt like they wrote Pike like he was different to how he was in the rest of the season. He's a very confident man, a very forward man, but in this episode he kind of felt like pushed around by both Burnham and Saru. So maybe he was having a bad day. I don't know.
I mean, he could have been having a bad day, but also I think that like he might have been a little startled by Saru, because I think I was too. I was a little uncomfortable because I remember in that episode with Pavo, Saru, when he lost his fear, became just like this kind of like
maniac.
Yeah, maniac. He was just like he was like, and in and so I always thought like, oh, like maybe the fear is good because it keeps him like the way he is. But I like how they addressed it, because like they kind of brought that back into it, I thought, because I did feel that tension of like, oh, is Saru gonna do something crazy, because he's getting really intense here. And then of course he does he does do something.
There's that moment, isn't there, where he kind of like stands up again. He looks like he's gonna actually confront Pike, and
right
it looks like he's gonna headbutt him or something. And then like Burnham steps in front of them and like, whoa, calm down.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. I always liked one thing I always liked about Pike before we knew him better in the cage is that he was different from Captain Kirk. This is what happens when you have allergies. You mispronounce everything.
Captain Perk and Captain Kike.
Oh, that's a bad word. But anyways,
is it?
Yes, it's a derogatory term for Jews. But anyways,
I did not know.
I know. See, it's okay. Ignorance
I apologize.
It was a pun. But anyways, Captain Kirk is kind of consistently dashing and daring, and in the pilot, The Cage, Pike has these like doubts, and like he's not content, and he's not necessarily confident, and you get that impression in the scene where the doctor serves him the whiskey to help calm his nerves or whatever, and he's like tired of being out in space and stuff like that. So I just thought that was okay. Like I kind of like connected that to that performance and thought it was okay for Pike to not be like always so confident. Like I kind of enjoyed that. But he does take back the, he does manage to control the situation at the end. But it's true, even the Baul, like, I mean, Saru is just straight up yelling at the Baul, like in the one scene, like Pike's trying to be diplomatic and he's like, like, like it's like he does lose control of the bridge completely. It's true. So yeah, it was that was interesting. The whole episode I thought was very good concept wise, and like those little things that even though they were off a little bit, they worked for me. I thought they were great.
I have a question regarding this episode. I'm sorry. I know you don't want to spend too much time on each episode
No, it's
individually.
okay. It's okay.
But I have a question about this. So you guys, I imagine, remember exactly what happened regarding the bowl and the Kelpians, and how their situation changed, etc. Like, the bowl were pretty ugly, and they looked evil, and they felt evil. They gave us this vibe. If they were cute, fluffy creatures, would we have felt the same way? Because I feel like their appearance like made us judge them, or like made us take sides with the Kelpians a lot more. Because if they were like little porg-like creatures, and they had finally managed to take over after being oppressed for thousands of years by the Kelpian, would we have felt the same way about them?
I mean,
or...
if they were doing the same thing, I think like the looks definitely like kind of echo the sentiment that they're, you know, evil, because they look creepy and stuff like that. But if they were cute bunny creatures and they were still doing the same thing, I would have also thought they were awful. You know, I would just been like, it's unfortunate that they're cute.
Okay.
Because the Kelpians never actually they've never seen them, have they? That's the first time Saru sees. Is that the first time they've seen a bowl?
Well, it's the first time he's seen one. I mean,
Yeah.
probably generations that were slightly before him have never seen one, but years ago maybe they coexisted or something.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so apparently they shared the planet and were like hunted by the Kelpians, right? So they had to have been seen at some point.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because you have that bit where Ariam and Tilly use the sphere's data and you see like the bowl were the dominant species, and then the numbers kind of like the bowl almost become extinct.
I'll be back in 1 second.
No problem. Yeah, exactly. The Kelpians were once and then it shifts.
Yeah,
like exactly. So that happened there. Yeah, it was a really good episode. So
I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah. What did you think of the sort of in the end? Well, we should probably wait for Sean, but we'll ask him again. But in the end, when the Baul fighters arrive in the battle at the last episode, I was kind of hoping it was the Baul in the fighters, like that they had a change of heart, or you know what I mean, like.
Oh yeah. In the very last episode, I did think. Yeah, my immediate thought was, how have they somehow managed to like coexist?
Oh, I lost you. You kind of broke up, Rob. Are you there? Hello, Rob. You froze. I've lost my crew. You froze. So I missed that whole part. And I don't know if the audience heard it or not either. But either I froze or you froze.
I thought the same. I thought that it was the Baul for a split second, and then obviously you see Saru's sister is piloting the ship. But yeah, I thought the same.
Yeah, we were just talking about how we thought for a split second in Such Sweet Sorrow Part 2, when the Baul Raiders come in, or the Baul fighters come in, that there were going to actually be Baul in the ship. So we were a little surprised. And then I guess it begs the question, like, what did the Kelpians just cut over
genocide? Absolutely. Absolutely. It would have been okay. It would have been better if the Baul came up, because if it was the Baul that came, like in the big ships, and they had smaller ships, and they'd put Kelpie in the smaller ships, then it would have implied that they've negotiated, found some useful way to coexist. But the fact that the Kelpians arrived in the Baul ships just means that the Baul were just wiped out. They don't exist anymore.
It does beg that question.
So I mean,
because Saru,
I would very much like the show to kind of because I know we're probably not gonna see Pike anymore, but Saru still exists. But I mean, I would have liked them to kind of have to deal with that. Like, one day they come back and they both realize that the Baul were completely exterminated by these Kelpians, that once they kind of evolved, many of them just went completely friggin' crazy, the same way Saru did, because they were just force evolved, and now they have to deal with the fact that they initiated this genocide.
Well, go ahead. Sarana, I think Sarana says, I mean, I know it's they did it too easily. Sarana says that she's she's committed to, trying to live peacefully and coexist with the battle. But I agree, it would be interesting to see, actually what happens years later. Because it's a bit too easy to make them. Yeah, they all live happily ever after. They're coexisting fine.
Yeah, the situation seemed too like.
You
complicated to do that.
You massacred quite a lot of my people. I'm gonna have a problem with that.
Yeah, no. So it would have been like very interesting actually. And maybe if they do a Pike spin-off, they can send Pike there a few years.
Thanks, Mom. She heard me blowing my nose and she brought me some kind of juice here, I guess.
Oh my God, I want that.
It's got turmeric in it. It's delicious. Yummy. That was a little cameo from my mom.
Your Red Angel.
Yeah, the Sound of Thunder still having lots of discussions about it. Next, we go into Light and Shadows, and we go right back in. This is Martha Cunningham directing, Ted Sullivan, Von Wilmot, and then teleplay by Ted Sullivan. So the story by Ted Sullivan and Von Wilmot. So this is the episode basically where we find out that Amanda's been harboring Spock on Vulcan. Is that right? That's this episode.
Yeah.
And Sarek has been doing this kind of like meditation, that a Kotrick search, if you will, for Spock, but she cleverly hid him in the Kotrick chamber where he's essentially invisible to Sarek. But Burnham suspects something and goes home, confronts Amanda, and then because in the other episode, one of the other previous episodes, Amanda gets mad when Burnham tells her that she basically rejected Spock or hurt his feelings when he was a kid. And so she's like, well, I'm gonna get my son back. So we know she's like off to do that. Anyways, so we finally meet Spock, but he's batshit crazy. He's not making any sense. He keeps like kind of like referring to passages from what's it called? Alice in Wonderland. Thank you.
Alice in Wonderland.
And so then Sarek, when he realizes all this stuff is going on, he decides, well, Michael, you need to take Spock and take him to Section 31 and turn him in, because that's the only thing that's going to make the situation right. So she does. She takes Spock to Section 31, but then Giorgio reveals that Section 31 doesn't plan to protect Spock. They're going to try to extract his memories with this like mirror universe tech that is invasive. So she and Burnham fake fight, and then they orchestrate an escape. And at the end of the episode, she realizes that Spock has been giving coordinates, so she punches those coordinates in, and we're going to go to Talos. I wish I could do all my summaries this quickly.
Well, you did it quick because you missed out the whole thing where Tyler and Pike are in the shuttle being attacked by like future squid.
And
Ariam's
infected in this episode, I think.
Ariam goes all iRobot in this episode as well. She gets the red eyes.
She gets the red, red angels, red eyes.
Red angels, red eyes. It's not a bad episode. It doesn't stand out.
The day and reminding me of those things, but go on.
It's not a bad episode by any means. It didn't stand out that much to me. I know this is where everyone started thinking of the Borg, and this is where all the Borg speculation came into play because of the probe that went into the future and then came back with the tentacles and everything.
That's right, yeah.
And none of us knew where they were going with the Arium plot. We got all very intrigued by that.
Wait, what was that?
What was what?
None of us. None of us. What?
None of us knew where they were going with the Arium.
Oh yeah, it's true.
The red eyes, and so yeah, it's not a bad episode. It's just I suppose it doesn't stand out. It's it moves the plot along. and it helps us find Spock. And it was our first introduction to Spock, which, as we know now, he was all jumbled because he was experiencing time in a non-linear fashion or something.
Right.
Um,
So overall, pretty good, exciting episode. Again,
very nice Vulcan
yeah,
visuals.
yeah, I like that a lot. I liked seeing trees, like
And rain.
and rain and all kinds
It's
of
a planet.
And at first I was a little like, wait, is that how Vulcan is? But then I remembered, like, even though we only see like little bits of it here and there, yes, of course, because from space you see like ice caps and you see like oceans and like stuff like that. So, of course, Vulcan has other environments. It's not just one giant forge.
So, Vulcan has no moon. As established, I don't know where. Someone said that it has no moon. But in all of the shots of Discovery until now, we've always seen something in orbit, like basically a sister planet or something.
Oh, so was there?
And I would be. There's a huge shape in the sky every time we see Vulcan in Discovery, both in season 1 and in season 2.
Oh, I have to like. I didn't even notice that. That's crazy.
And considering it can't be a moon because it's established that like Vulcan has no moon, it must be like another planet maybe that we're not so much aware of, that we never really talked about. So
It
I'd
would
be
be
intrigued to see if the Vulcans have their own kind of remans or something. But
well, it would be really kind of like almost ideal if Vulcan and Romulus had like this kind of symmetry to them, right? Like it would be an interesting thing. So, if Vulcan had a sister planet, or yeah, that's interesting. I never even thought about that. Or it could be proof that Star Trek Discovery does not take place in the same universe.
well, you know what? Okay, we could expand our thinking even more, and we could say that there's some sort of alien particle in the atmosphere of Vulcan that simply reflects its own planet, and so what you see is like a reflection of Vulcan in the sky or something.
That's a little far fetched because the distance, but still, I like it. I like the way you're thinking. No,
Outside the box here, come on.
That's actually good. All right, so overall, very very cool episode, I thought. Then we go to If Memory Serves, directed by T.J. Scott, and then written by Dan Dworkin and Jay Betty. And basically, this is like from the beginning of this episode where they did the recap from the cage and like did all these scenes, and I just love this episode from start to finish. I thought it was like really well done. It was great to see the Telosians. The updates didn't bother me at all, and I loved everything from like the black hole, effect, to even just like how they incorporated the sounds from the pilot, like some of the sounds from the pilot, and seeing Talos and like the little blue, the blue leaves. And I think Sean even said something like, "This is how you update a a show. Like this was exactly like what you wanted to see all along, right?"
I was very happy with it. I disagree with redesigning the Telosians. I don't like. I would have liked them because they have everything except the nose was pretty much spot on. I wouldn't have added that. I didn't see the point of doing that. But yeah, this is pretty much how you do. This was the, what is it, Trials and Tribulations, but of Discovery, where they go back and revisit a classic episode and really build on it, and it gives so much context to the menagerie later on. When they bring Pike to tell us why they bring Pike back to tell us. I don't know. It was a really good episode. This stands out this season for me, and it wasn't fast paced like Discovery usually is. It really took the time. It really took its time, so I enjoyed it very much.
Right. And of course, we have the whole. We find out that the Red Angel saved Burnham from dying when she was a child by coming to Spock, that was Mama Burnham, and and then he melds with mind melds with the Red Angel, and of course that's how he knows that quote unquote all sentient life in the galaxy is going to be destroyed. in the future, and so now he feels the burden, or he feels the the obligation to try to do something about it. And then we get we also get the Burnham Spock relationship, and it's very adversarial, and but it's also very witty and clever. And of course, they become fugitives at the end, because because of Section 31. Um, and that was really clever too, when they the Telosians, how they trick the Section 31 folks into thinking that they have the real Burnham and Spock. All right, cool. So I thought that was a great episode too. Any other thoughts on that before we go to the next one?
Nope, just it's a good episode. That's it.
No, it was great. This is my favorite of the season. Actually, this is my personal favorite of the season. I really, really enjoyed it.
And this is the one where
that montage.
What's that?
And the beginning was just great. That previously on Star Trek, that was amazing.
Episode 9, Project Daedalus. Jonathan Frakes returns, and this was written by Michelle Paradise, who's the new showrunner of Star Trek Discovery. And what is this one about?
This is the one where Admiral Cornwell comes to Discovery and tells them about control. I think tells them what control is, but that she hasn't got it. Her access has been denied now, so they have to go and investigate. I think that's this one. And obviously,
they go to this. Yeah, that's right. And this is where Arium dies.
Right at the end, yeah. Yeah. Which people had there was a lot of people that had a problem with, I didn't really care because I wasn't invested in her. But I thought it was really emotional, that episode. And at the beginning of the next episode where they have her funeral, I thought it was really touching. I thought it was
I agree. I wasn't invested in her the same way I would have been in a different Star Trek series, because we in season 1 we would have known the bridge crew and followed their stories and things like that. But I have to say that having her in the background, there's something there. I've always been curious about her, and even though it was all of a sudden they give her this backstory and they give it to us all in one episode, it worked for me. It actually worked for me as well. I actually got oh, okay. And it was revelatory. And then I was genuinely shocked that they didn't save her. I was genuinely shocked that she had to die. So it was kind of crazy.
I knew she was going to die the moment they showed us, because that's how The Walking Dead proceeds. If there's a character you don't know much about in The Walking Dead, and all of a sudden they show you what happened to them, I don't know, in the past few years or before, that, that character's going to die in that episode, because that's just how they proceed. And to have this focus on Arium all of a sudden, and knowing that they had also changed the actors in the beginning of the season, it was just too much evidence. It was okay, they're going to kill her. But it was a moment. It wasn't just oh, who cares, they killed her. It was a pretty emotional moment how they got rid of her. And yeah, I did like the whole scene in the next episode where they really address her death. It was great to see that, because I felt like in season 1 they didn't do that at all. Koba died, no one cared.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Excellent.
I don't know about the whole control thing though. The whole attacking Section 31 with the mines.
Oh, the mines
and
stuff,
everything.
yeah.
I didn't really know what to think about that.
It was interesting though. I think that they they establish a lot of people disagree with it. They're why would anyone? It doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but it kind of makes sense to me why they basically halt the use of holograms later, and then they don't come back until the next generation. Actually, until
Like basically
Deep
Deep
Space
Space Nine, yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't maybe like the best explanation, but it was actually like it was good that they addressed it, because I was like, that was a big thing also in season one, is like, there's all these incongruities with technology, and I'm trying to think of a situation in human history where we've done that, and I don't think we really have. But the closest thing I could think of is like the nuclear arms race, right? Like, once we used the bomb and realized like what it could do, then humanity was like, okay, this
Mustard
has
gas.
what's that?
Mustard gas.
Yeah, like, just there's been
We
instances where
developed
like,
mustard gas, and it's like, okay, we should not use
yeah,
this.
exactly. So there's like there are examples of it. They're a little bit more extreme than holograms, but I think like, certainly it can make sense, because a computer can imitate, Control even says like, I've gotten really good at imitating um others through this holographic technology, and then they move on to the next step, which is Leland. So yeah, that was a good episode. Next we get, and that's when, isn't this the in Project Daedalus, doesn't Leland also get infected in that episode? No.
When does he get infected?
No, it's the next. That's the Red Angel. The next one, I think
Okay.
he gets infected.
Oh, he
with
does.
with a needle through the eye. That's
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, everything that goes into the eyes or under the nails, it's not nice to watch, isn't it?
It reminded me of I said this to someone else. In X-Files, you have that black oil that goes through the eye. Yeah, creepy. I like it.
That's right. That's right. So the next episode is the Red Angel. It's the one where they set up a trap, which Spock realizes that the Red Angel seems to be focused on Burnham, so they come up with this like horrific idea to kill her, and one of the most horrific ways. Like, so she like chokes to death, and like, but it pays off because they're able to capture it, and then they reveal that the Red Angel is Michael Burnham's mother, and I really loved it. I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't expecting it necessarily. I was actually expecting it to be Burnham. So, which again, later on we find out that it actually is Burnham in another way, but there's two Red Angels, not just one. So, I really connected with the story of how Dr. Burnham is kind of like trapped in this like back and forth between the future, and she can travel to try to change it, but she can't actually leave the future. She can't go back. She can't stay in the past, which is what she wants. She wants to be reunited. Her whole plan was to go an hour back in time, and instead she ends up it would have been interesting. I actually thought the season was going to have something to do with the story at the end too, and it didn't. Of course, it went in a completely different direction, but I actually thought like that, because Leland and Michael remember Gabriel Burnham dying, I thought that like she had to go back and then die in the past, but that didn't happen. Although it could happen in season 3. I think we're gonna see Gabriel Burnham again, of course. I hope. Yeah, what'd you guys think?
Yeah, it was yeah, it was a good one, but I can't really think of anything else to say other than that.
I don't like time travel. I think it's a bad plot device. And I think I don't know, it never really works. It's very hard to write correctly, if you even can. It's full of paradoxes, full of problems. It kind of confused me how like she was trapped by Burnham being like, she knew that they were going to save Burnham at the last minute because she was from the future. So it made no sense to me that she would come back and actually save her.
Like,
because she's from the future. I don't know.
Right, like, and then it begs the question because she, like, what? How does she know Burnham is dying in the first place? I guess
How
it's
does
because history.
she know Burnham is in
I think
danger in the first
I think what
place?
it is that like history
If she does, it's because of historical records.
history
But
records
then,
Burnham is dying, so she has to go back to the point where Burnham died to save her, like, basically. And so once she saves her, of course, time has changed. But we can't. I don't want to get too deep into. I agree with you that time travel is tricky, but we could spend an hour just talking
oh,
about the
absolutely.
you know
The
of
mechanics of time travel is very far fetched.
I like to describe it in this way. Like, I don't think any work of fiction can nail time travel, and the reason is because there's no, like, it's such a thing that, like, until time travel actually happens, like, there on it truly we have no idea what it's like or what the implications of it are. And really the only time travel works is when the story is focused on the time traveler themselves, because then you see a very
perspective,
perspective,
I
right?
suppose.
You see the perspective of the time travel.
Mm.
That's why Doctor Who, I think, works really well, because you're always just following the Doctor, right? You're not necessarily seeing what's going on, what the
Yeah, the
in the
aftermath.
aftermath. Whereas with this, we're dealt with, like, the questions of, like, well, what happens, and and this and that. And so yeah, so I agree with that. But at the same time, I really thought that using time travel as a device to bring uh Michael's mother back was awesome, because, like, how else, like, that was a pretty cool move, what I mean, like, to have us connect with her real mother, and like
I didn't like that at all,
and
actually. I mean, okay, I know I'm the
it's fine,
buzzkill here, but
that's good. I mean, like it.
look, I watch quite a lot of shows, and there's this thing in TV nowadays where it seems it's a shock factor to kill someone in a show, right? But it would seem like none of them ever stay dead. There's always some sort of shenanigan to bring them back, and especially in science fiction, what have you. And I don't mind the odd, oh, we're gonna bring um, Tasha Yar back in this one-off episode because it's all about alternate realities or whatever, and that's cool. It brings back an actor that you haven't seen in a while, and it enables you to kind of show you a different version of that character, whatever. But just straight up bringing people saying, "Oh well, you know, her parents weren't dead all along, or her mother was never dead." I don't know. I think it takes away from the drama of or the trauma of actually having her parents dead, and it's all for like a shock factor in the moment.
Hmm.
So it's not something that I necessarily enjoy. It's also something that so many shows do all the time.
I hear you, but I liked it. I do think that I yeah, I hear what you're saying, though. It
I
makes
would have much enjoyed the Red Angel in its like the whole Red Angel plot to be like unrelated to Burnham and just be like some sort of alien being is trying to course correct something that happened. And
well, everyone thought it was going to be
it,
Iconians or something like that. So
I'm happy it wasn't the Iconians, to be honest. But yeah.
what about you, Rob?
About the Red Angel.
Well, being Burnham's mom, yeah, being Burnham's mom, I guess, like, did that work
Yeah,
for you?
I always feel really stupid because everyone always guesses these things way in advance, and I always feel like I'm the last to get it.
To be fair, I think
I didn't,
only Irish
yeah.
Ricky guessed it was going to be Burnham's mom. Because I remember him saying that really early. And when he said that, I was thinking, there's no way it's going to be her mom. And then he was right. Props to him. But I think no one really guessed.
On Starfleet Boy, we joked about Burnham being everyone's mother. Like, we called the Red Angel Mama Burnham, but we didn't think that actual Mama Burnham was
It would be actual mother. And it turns out it's Laurel that became the mother.
Right, exactly. So we didn't get any of that right. It was Mama Laurel instead. So the next episode is Perpetual Infinity, directed by Maha Vrivilo. Sorry to you for butchering your name like that. And it was written by Alan McElroy and Brandon Schultz. And this is the episode where they basically so at the end of the previous episode, we find out it's Mama Burnham. And I guess we were kind of bleeding a little bit into this episode with our discussion, but this is the episode where we find out about her past and like how she time traveled and everything like that. And this is the episode where we realize that and yeah, and you're right, it was the last episode where Leland gets infected, and then this episode we get more of that, and we realize that you know, Dr. Burnham's just trying to get the sphere data to either be destroyed or get it away from Section 31. So they come up with this plan to put the sphere data into the time crystal that's powering Mama Burnham's suit and send it so far into the future that it would be in a loop forever and no one could get it. And Burnham thinks she can transport her mother using dark energy, transport her mother out of the suit at the last minute before it goes into this perpetual infinity state and save her. And so everything's going smoothly. They're downloading the data, and then all of a sudden, Leland, first he tries to send Ash to get the data, and Ash decides not to do it. And then he sends Emperor Giorgio to go get the data, and she starts to get the data, but then she like changes her mind, and so he has to come down and do it himself. And there's this awesome phaser fight, and unfortunately Dr. Burnham, part of the data, and Dr. Burnham gets sucked back into time, and Michael loses her mother, sucked forward into time, and Michael loses her mother yet again, and Leland escapes. And so this is kind of like where the episodes start to head towards the finale. So it all just starts to escalate from here. Yeah, so we pretty much talked about it in our in our discussion of the Red Angel. It was actually this episode that a lot of those events occurred in. But yeah, so I thought it was pretty good, action packed. I love the ending, the phaser fight at the end. I loved all that stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it kind of merged. It merged into the one before and the one after. So it's kind of...
it's all just one big kind of like, which is kind of interesting. You know, Star Trek Discovery's pulling it off. They were meant to do this, right? It was supposed to be different from previous Star Trek series where they were more episodic. Even Deep Space Nine doesn't get like that until like later seasons, right? Like, so yeah, pretty cool.
Well, the Discovery is a bit of it's a strange phenomenon, isn't it? Because it's clearly written and created to be a show that's binged,
right?
Binge watch this, but then they don't.
I can tell you it works really well binged because I watched the season prior to the second part of the finale. I watched the whole season and it worked really well. Like it just boom, flowed right into it.
I think this show will age better than like. It will be better once it's out. Once it's been out for a few years, because new fans that come, like people that have never seen Star Trek Discovery, when they come in and they'll be able to binge 3 or 4 seasons of it, I think like it'll work a lot better because all of those cliffhangers will keep you like watching the next episode, and you'll just keep on clicking and watching and clicking and watching. Whereas we get them week to week, and I think the week to week works a lot more for like an episodic format where you're presented with some sort of sci-fi concept and you can talk about it like for the entire week, what have you. It's a bit of a strange thing. They should really drop all of the episodes at once.
I had to because I'm watching it as it airs. I had to go back this week, and I Control crept up on me. It was like, where did that come from? So I had to go back and try to figure out how Control came about, and yeah, so the fact that it airs weekly for me, I kind of missed where Control came from, so I had to go back and
I
watch it to fully digest it.
I absolutely understand what you mean, because we're watching all of these episodes, and it's kind of like, as we said, like a Noble for Care on A Point of Light, they're all like, they've all got these little self-contained stories, even if they've got this overarching story, and then all of a sudden you're diving deep into like Control's taking over the world and everything. I'm like, oh God, where did that come from?
I have to admit that I kind of enjoy that it's weekly because it's become a ritual. Like, you know, we make it a big deal. It's like Game of Thrones kind of is like that too, where it's like there's Star Trek night. I watch it with my mom. You know, like it's
Discussion.
just what's that?
You have a Starfleet Boy discussion.
I have a Starfleet Boy discussion. Like, of course, yeah, there's like space to do all those things. And then I like that afterwards you can just binge it, you know, of course. But it is a little frustrating because it is a show that would work really well as just one straight binge, you know, like over a weekend or something like that. But then unfortunately, it would be like, well, what do I do for the whole year now? You know, like
As a content creator, it would be absolute madness because then I would have to would have to all work on all of these discussions all of a sudden. Like, not everyone would be like kind of up to date. You'd have to make like 17 or what was it, 15, 14 reviews all of a sudden. It would be hell.
Yeah. So
this makes it easier for us.
It does. Indeed, it works better. So for a lot of reasons. So I do like it that way. And there's a little disappointment I get although I like to binge shows, but like I have to admit, like when I finished Sabrina season 2, I don't know if you guys are watching that show, but on Netflix there's an update of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which is like dark and very like adult. And you know, so I binged through season 1, and then I was like, oh. And season 2 actually came out pretty close, not too long after. But then I watched that, and then I was like, oh, now what do I do? Like,
it's over too quickly.
It's over too quickly.
I think you probably feel the same way for Lost in Space, didn't you? Because you had me watch you enjoyed it a lot when it came out.
Yeah.
And then it took me a few, maybe a few weeks. I watched Lost in Space, and now it feels like we've been waiting for the second season forever now.
Forever, yeah. So, and especially like a high production show like that one, like where there's a lot, you know, on location.
You know, there's a lot of CG going on. There's a lot of post production, and even they've got some amazing sets going on Lost in Space.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So Star Trek, I just feel like binging is rewarding in the immediate sense, but I kind of like the slower pace, waiting for it week after week. So
you just wait until we have like 6 current Star Trek TV shows coming out all at once. You know, they'll have to start dropping these full seasons because there's not enough weeks in a year.
It would be a little much. Like, I'm actually kind of nervous now because you know, there's gonna be the Picard series.
How many weeks in a year? Like 52? Is it?
Yeah, there's 52 weeks.
52 weeks. Okay, so there's 10 episodes of Picard, and there's like 14 of Discovery, which is already 24. That's only basically half a year.
Yeah, it's true. I would love it if
that's 2 shows. They're planning 5.
I would love it if they figured out a way, like eventually once these shows are up and running, where you had like maybe a couple weeks break, but you had something Star Trek happening the whole year. That way you could kind of like, if you wanted to watch all the shows, that is, you could.
I think the point is to have Star Trek going on all the time.
All the time.
And like, even when they don't have a show, they'll probably just drop a short tricks or something just to keep you like
Yeah, it makes sense. Through the Valley of Shadows,
satisfied.
Directed by Douglas Arniakowski and written by Bo Yeon Kim and Erica Lippold. They're a fantastic duo. They write some of my favorite episodes. I like them a lot. And this is a really good episode, I thought. It was really interesting to see Boreth. There's like this like time crystal legend stuff going on. We find out that Laurel and Tyler's son is like some kind of time mystic, like he's the time pope or something like that.
Time pope. That's brilliant.
And he leads Captain Pike to the time crystal cathedral or chamber or whatever it is, and we get this awesome, addition to his story where we find out he actually has known or will know his fate, and he chooses it anyways to be able to save sentient life in the galaxy, or many beings. So again, it just like elevates Captain Pike for me. I think that was like the standout thing from this. It was also really cool to see the D7 side shot there for a second with like, they have a lot of detail in it. And then you also get, I thought it was like a really good addition, like the way Laurel, Mary Chieffo, I think her acting is always great, but I think for some reason this season I could see her performance better. Maybe the makeup was redesigned for that reason, was so that we could see her more. Ken Mitchell's awesome. He just keeps popping up as different Klingons, and yeah, no, it was just great. It was great. It was great all around.
I really enjoyed this episode. I really liked what they did with how they put what's his name, Tenavik on there. They put Tyler's son on there, and it turns out he's like an adult. That was kind of like a bit of a shock factor. Like, oh god. No, I really liked that. I thought it was great, and so I don't agree with the redesign of the chair, that kind of stuff in Pike's vision. That's the aesthetics, and that's, I suppose, just personal, my personal grievances with the show. But then I really did enjoy the whole time shenanigans, and it just goes to show that Pike is the captain. When Anson Mount started the season, he did an interview where he said that he wanted to play Pike as like an embodiment of the values of Starfleet and Star Trek that Gene had imagined, and it made sense to him to do that because this was the first character that Gene Roddenberry created. So of course he was creating this character, with these ideals in mind, and it makes total sense. And the character was written in such a way, so it was great.
Yeah, the fact that Anson Mount's able to make Pike such a successful character in 14 episodes, and I think a lot of people now, Pike's up there with some of the other captains. Like, I think some people are even saying that he's their favorite now, and
yeah, a lot of people are saying that.
The fact that that's been able to happen within one season is testament to how great that this character is and how well he's played. And yeah, what you said about embodying the values of Starfleet, it's absolutely.
I never knew that I would want a Captain Pike story. Like it never occurred to me, but now I can't imagine. Like, I'm hungry now, like, for more. I definitely want, as much Pike as we can get. It's pretty awesome. And yeah, kudos. Anson Mount's in a really great spot now, because he's got like the whole fandom, and and lots of people are just making the rallying cry of like, what, give us more, like it must feel pretty nice for him.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we're there. We finally made it to the last 2 episodes. So we get Such Sweet Sorrow Part 1 and 2, directed by Olatunde Osunsami, and this was written by Michelle Paradise, Jenny Lumet, and Alex Kurtzman. So basically, they bookend here. Alex Kurtzman comes back to write the finales with these other guys. So in Part 1, basically it's all just set up towards what the plan is going to be, which is to get the Discovery into the future. Like, they try to destroy the Discovery and they can't do it. A lot of people pointed out that, like, well, why didn't they just keep firing their phasers, or until the shields went down and then just destroy her? I think what is not stated in the episode, and again, this is just me filling it in with headcanon, so take it for what it's worth, but I think that when they realize that if the sphere data is able to do things like manipulate the ship's shield, it's almost like kind of stating like, hey, I'm trying to protect myself, maybe it's a consciousness. And then so the game changes at that point. Like, it's like you're not just destroying data at that point, you might be destroying like something that has sentience, right? So I think that's the unsaid reason why they.
Well, that could be just fail-safe protocols. It's just fail-safe protocols, I reckon. It's just programmed to like continue, programmed to thrive. They could have just thrown the ship into a sun.
Self-preservation is something that is indicative of higher intelligence or just life in general, right? Like, we all have that instinct.
If you program like a file to like protect itself or to like stay encrypted or whatever it's not conscious, is it? It's not sentient. It's just programmed.
Well, that's the question is like you kind of have to find out. And that was one of my disappointments, I guess, which maybe they'll address in season 3, because eventually we do get Zora on the Discovery, but I wish we could have had like a little scene where like it was established that like, oh, this is like not just data, there's something else going on here, and we kind of have to now protect it as well from Control, because if Control gets a hold of it, it'll, you know, destroy it. I also had this like wild idea that like maybe the sphere data would fight Control and win. You know, like, you know, but you know, all kinds of ideas.
And Ultron kind of.
Exactly. But anyways, the point is that like, so that wasn't really addressed in the episode. So but maybe, you know, again, that's my headcanon filling it in. But anyways, so they decide that that's what they have to do. So they start to build they're going to start to build a time suit. Meanwhile, the Enterprise oh wait, sorry, they evacuate to the Enterprise. Like all kinds of stuff, fun stuff is happening. We get to see the Enterprise, we get to see the Enterprise bridge, we get to see the interiors, we get to see the crew dressed in, you know, the red and
I loved the docking like tubes between.
At first
they're really cool.
At first I didn't like it, but then I thought, you know, actually it is cool. Yeah. And then I found out like it was like in a Star Trek comic or in a novel or something, that it's been around, like the idea was around from like a long time ago, so it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was neat. It was just neat to see like finally another Federation ship, you know, like and just like I felt like, you know, this was more like I really felt like the updates made sense to me. Like I really liked the way the Enterprise looked. I thought it was like somehow faithful to the idea or the feeling of the original series, but of course, like, you know, modernizing it, and it didn't even feel like Discovery style. It felt like something even different, a little bit, like a little more, I guess you could call it Enterprise, you know, like, or whatever. Like it felt pretty cool.
And we get Poe back in this episode, don't we?
We get Poe back in this episode. Yeah, we go to Zahia, and we, you know, they start to charge the time crystal, and they come up with this plan to charge the time crystal, etc. And also Section 31's pursuing them, and at the end of the episode they arrive, and the Enterprise and the Discovery have to fight them off. We had Sarek and Amanda come to visit in this episode, and then finally the battle, which rages for like 20 minutes, which is pretty awesome. It was a pretty great effort as far as TV goes. We get the Klingons come to save the day, the cavalry. We get the
I love that. I love that scene where the Klingons and the Kelpians. That's like awesome.
The Kelpians come in.
It reminded me of it was like just like the DS9, you know, epic battle scenes where there's so much going on, it's like overwhelming. And yeah, there's that, I can't remember the episode, where the Klingons arrive and save the day in when they're fighting the Dominion. And I thought, yeah, that's just like that, where the Klingon ships arrive just in the nick of time. It was cool.
Absolutely. And then also and yeah, and so then finally we get the big surprise, which is Michael has to set all the signals. So she goes back in time, sets all the signals, and then she comes back, and Discovery leaves. That's Discovery and Michael go off into the future to 950 years from this point, and that's the big oh my gosh moment. And yeah, so now that we've covered all the episodes, I guess we could talk about the whole ending and the season. I mean, we've talked about it, you know, in detail, but I think my biggest takeaway is I felt like this season, obviously the biggest win was like the introduction of you know, the fleshing out of Captain Pike, Spock, you know, like connecting their relationship. And a lot of people are saying that like it's just great because now the Discovery as a show will not be bound by canon and like all these you know, like the weight of like what, you know, the expectations are and things like that, and it can really blossom as a show. So
Yeah.
what do you guys think?
But they're under no restrictions now whatsoever. They could do. I mean, I know some people would say they've been doing things whatever they want anyway, but they
Yeah.
there's nothing. There's no storyline to follow. There's no canon to follow. Things don't have to look a certain way. They can, they don't have to rely on anything now.
I'm very confused by the production team though, because when in season 1 the showrunners basically said that because they were asked, why did you not set the show in the future? And the showrunner said something to the effect of, well, it's too complicated to invent stuff, and basically he said something pretty, I don't know, it felt like he didn't believe in his writers enough, like they wouldn't be able to come up with things in the future. So he said it's easier to like have restraints, and it's easier to kind of like keep to certain boxes, and that's why they went back into the past. And then they just went completely haywire and didn't respect the boxes at all. And ultimately now they've gone to the future, so I'm kind of confused about this. But I am happy they've taken it. Well, I'm happy. I don't know yet. I don't know where they're going with this. But yeah, I suppose I'm happy they're not going to tamper too much with the original series timeline anymore. And more so, Discovery can now become its own show. I felt like it was relying too much on the fact that Burnham has a link with Spock. It was relying. I loved Pike. Don't get me wrong, and I loved having number 1 and all of that, and having the Enterprise. But it felt like Discovery wasn't managing on its own. It had to continue to rely on things that are, even the Klingons, even if they completely redesigned them, they were relying on things that already exist in Star Trek.
Now they can go off and explore and meet new aliens and go to new planets, and we don't.
I'm afraid truly that something's gonna happen where they're just gonna spend 2 episodes in the future and then come back or something. I really hope they don't do that, because that's a thing that not only Star Trek has done before, but a lot of other shows would do. I really hope they stick their ground and they say like, okay, we're doing this, we're staying in the future, and however many seasons come out after this, Discovery is
based on what they were
officially disappeared.
Based on what they're officially releasing, like there were some interviews with Martin Green and like other things that were on the Star Trek Twitter feed. It looks like they're at least going to be there the whole season. I don't know about past that, but I kind of love it. Like I like that the Discovery. I was kind of like, I think they kind of were I think Star Trek Discovery is different from other Star Trek shows because obviously in this day and age, like the feedback is instantaneous. Like you don't have to wait for people to write letters, and you don't just rely on reviewers and critics. It's like there's so much more feedback, and I feel like Star Trek Discovery was already testing these waters a little bit, like with the whole with the mirror universe plot. Like I wondered if they were like trying to see like, would fans love it if they Discovery stayed in the mirror universe? Like that could have been a thing too, and that would have corrected like the problems as well. But the mirror universe is too dark. No one's gonna like it because it's not Star Trek enough. And I promise I'm not crying because I'm emotional right now. My allergies are just out of control. But I think that like going into the future, my hope is that by going into the future, they were able to affect the timeline in such a way that Control doesn't destroy half the the galaxy, life forms on the galaxy. And I'm hopeful that is done right. So I'm hopeful that we'll see the Federation and Starfleet in some form or another. The obvious thing is that the Discovery, like so many time refugees from it's like how Jillian comes to the future and she gets assigned to a starship, right? Like that's kind of like what they do with time refugees. So it'd be cool if like they refit the Discovery with the future technology and put her right back into action, and like the Discovery's crew just start going on missions in the future. And again, I think it's just going to be wonderful if that happens. But then of course there are unanswered questions like, what is the fate of Michael's mom? Like, can they can they make her? Will they resolve her story and things like that? And then, there's just a couple of things.
Do you think there'll be any link or reference to Calypso?
I think so. I have a theory that Calypso takes place even further in the future than this, because
it was 1,000 years after Discovery, wasn't it? Calypso. So they would put it like 50 years after.
All they say is in the episode, all the computer says, Zora says, is I've been waiting for about 1,000 years, but from when, we don't know. So it could be 1,000 years from the future that they've gone to.
Oh God! Okay.
So, because so that's my theory, is that like something's gonna happen. Maybe it'll tie into the series finale, like whenever the show ends or something. But but I have a feeling they will connect it. I think the Calypso will come into play.
Considering they connected basically all of the three others, because the Harry Mudd was obviously connected, but they also managed to connect the Serana story and the Poe story. I think it's safe to assume that they will eventually connect Calypso as well.
Yeah, so like, will the Federation exist? Will it be something completely different? Will it?
Right.
So it's many exciting avenues they can go down.
This is kind of the excitement that I was hoping for, period, from Discovery, like when it first began. Like, this is like, what's it going to be about? Like, this is truly going to uncharted territory and stuff like that. And
I understand there's a thirst to explore these old time periods, because we have like the Star Trek timeline is huge, and between Enterprise and the original series, there's a whole gap that we know nothing about. People would reference the Romulan Wars, that kind of stuff. There's a whole lot of things that we haven't seen, and I understand that there's a thirst to see that, but I think that Star Trek works best moving forward, and that like your main show should really be moving forward, pushing the boundaries. And if you want to go back and show us maybe the Klingon skirmishes, if you want to show us the Romulan Wars, it's better like as a limited format, which like you could then actually do the aesthetics of the time, and no one could come at you with the argument, oh well, modern audiences aren't going to watch that this limited series wouldn't be for the modern audiences anyway. They would be for Star Trek fans that want to see what happened in this time period. But then your main show can have whatever design or visual aesthetic it wants, and it can move on, and that can be for like the general audiences.
Agreed. I think that to kind of wrap up, because we've definitely been, I've got a hard stop at 3, and we've definitely been talking about this for a while, and I really love this discussion, even though I've been like totally allergy riddled here. But I think that it feels like I liked on the whole, like I liked the season. Like all the episodes were definitely above 5 for me. I mean, I know I was giving 10s out like like it grew on trees. Yeah, it's like 10, 10, 10. It's like, but I feel like, Sean, even for you, like I don't think any episode went below 5 this season for you. And overall, I think that the season, of course, it had its problems. The show, definitely there's plot holes and all kinds of things we could nitpick on. But for me, I think that this season was a awesome second season. Like it really definitely made me more excited about Discovery, and also kind of helped me to really like enjoy season 1 more than I did. So I give the season a 9.5.
Wow.
That's my closing statement. Now your turn, guys. I always go first because Sean doesn't trust my rating. Well, Humbert, actually, my friend Humbert doesn't trust my rating. It's a tradition now.
Doesn't trust you.
Yeah, so it's a tradition now that I go first. So now, but I like that you guys get to close it out. So whoever wants to go next, closing thoughts and rating.
Yeah, I loved the whole season. It was brilliant. So much happened. It was action packed. It just upped its game from. I mean, I enjoyed season 1. Season 1 was really, really good, but it definitely upped its game. If I was to rate it, I'd probably give it maybe a 9. I think.
Well,
And we not that I want to go back and discuss, but we didn't even mention Admiral Cordwell sacrificing herself.
Oh, I know. It's because we talked about it in the. I definitely we talked about it in our like episode discussion, but yeah, that was
Okay.
heartbreaking. That was heartbreaking for me because I felt like it was a really cool scene, like the way it was done, like the way she did it, or
didn't
she
have
just
to be
like
done though.
but it
Yeah,
didn't. I felt
yeah.
like it didn't have to be. I really liked her character.
I liked her
It kind of felt like they felt like they needed to kill someone to
Yeah.
like install consequence in their season, and so it fell on Cornwell, but it was kind of like, oh well, you know, yeah, it was kind of
It's true,
unjustified.
and I actually think like she could have gone to the future with them. Like, I don't know, it might have been.
We'll
Cool.
get Mira Cornwell one day. Whatever.
But also the blast door on the Enterprise is like amazing because like that was like quite an explosion. Like it
Why
doesn't
not
even
build the whole ship out of that stuff?
Right, like why not? Exactly, like why?
And the fact that he just stood there and watched her die, like you wouldn't just. There's a risk that might not work. At least step back a bit.
Yeah. or like make the glass rattle.
It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I mean, like even just make the glass rattle a little bit.
I do this weekly. It's fine.
All I know is that's what I want my ship to be made out of is the whatever that technology is. So yeah, even though there were things like that, I do still think it worked.
Yeah.
Like season 1 was kind of sporadic because sometimes it had amazing episodes, especially when it was in the Mirror Universe. Like the whole dark ambiance kind of fit and suited the Mirror Universe very well. But then some of these episodes, like the finale of Discovery of the season 1, I think was terrible. I really didn't like that. So it was really all over the place. Whereas season 2 was much more stable. Like I didn't get the best episodes of Star Trek out there, but I really got like an overall pretty stable season, and I was satisfied with it. This isn't the intellectual, dare I say, Star Trek that I'm looking for. This is more of like an entertainment Star Trek. It's much more action oriented, and you know the grand scheme of the plot kind of overshadows the detail of the storytelling, I suppose. And so that's maybe not what I'm looking for specifically, but I did enjoy myself overall. And I feel like as a fan of Star Trek, I enjoy a certain style of Star Trek. So I'm not going to say that this is the correct Star Trek, you know, this is the Star Trek that someone must enjoy, but I enjoy a more intellectual, maybe, how should I put it, sci-fi concept kind of Star Trek that we can have in like Voyager or the Next Generation. And Discovery Season 1 didn't do that at all. And so we were on completely polar opposites. But then I felt like Discovery met me halfway, because then I kind of accepted that this is more an action-oriented Star Trek. So I kind of took a step towards Discovery, and I felt like the Discovery took a step towards me by also conceding and giving us some of these sci-fi stories and giving us some of these kind of like moral themes as well. So yeah, it was definitely a step up from season 1.
Awesome. So then your season rating for season 2, your overall.
If I am to follow my my
your guide,
very accurate rating guide, it's like it averages out as a 6.4.
Hey, wow! What did season 1 get? Do you remember?
I think it was like a 5.8 maybe, or 5.9.
Wow, at least okay. We're inching on up, and so Rob's.
In all fairness, like to give you a comparison, season 1 of Voyager is 5.8, so that's similar to 5.9. It's just a bit lower. So season 1 of Discovery wasn't like, it's not the worst season 1 out there.
Was there ever a season in your ratings that got like close to a 10 in any of Star Trek?
No.
None of them.
Well, then I haven't, like, I'm re-rating these as an adult now.
Right.
I'm not going off like what I remember, because sometimes I remember Darmok is completely amazing, and though it is a good episode, it's not as amazing as I remember now that I've rewatched it. So
that can happen. That can happen.
I can give you updates as I carry on.
as you carry on. Well, I created a little bit of controversy on my Twitter page when I tweeted that Star Trek Discovery when Star Trek Discovery season 2 is, in my opinion, the best second season of all the different Star Trek series. Where do you guys rank among second seasons? Where do you guys rank Discovery?
Among all second seasons, yeah, I think that might be a valid thing actually, because second seasons in Star Trek are pretty. The original series second season is pretty good.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. If not agree, it's either at the top or near the top out of.
Yeah, it's one of the best second seasons because
Yeah.
Star Trek shows have trouble getting up. You know, they have trouble starting. Like TNG season 1 and 2 and Deep Space Nine season 1 and 2, they have really good episodes. Like Duet in DS9 season 1 is amazing, but sometimes they have a lot of trouble. So this
and it's you know, it's a little unfair because it is a unique way of storytelling that kind of two things are unique about it. One, we're only following really like the story's centered around one character, right? Which is different.
That's one thing I think we all would like from season 3. Would like a now you don't have an entire ship. You just have a small group on the USS Discovery, and maybe we could shift to an ensemble cast, and we could like really follow all of these characters, not just Burnham. I think that would help the show a lot.
I think they can pull it off where Burnham's still the central character, but
the same way Picard is the central character,
right?
For example,
but that we definitely get more stories with other characters. Like, yeah, you know, Burnham doesn't definitely, you know, not. I don't agree with like a lot of the people that are just like it doesn't seem it. I actually like the way everything kind of like has worked out, but I do agree that yes, she doesn't have to go on every away mission or every, like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, it's true. We could have, you know, different things going on as well. Just predictions. Who's going to captain the Discovery? Is it going to be someone brand new from the 32nd century? Do you think they'll continue the tradition of pulling in a captain from the outside, or do you think Saru or Burnham will get the command?
Well, I'd like to see Saru, but I thought with, you know, Lorca was a great character, and I didn't think they'd be able to trump him, but
they did with Pike.
If not, they did with Pike, so they could very well bring in someone new and trump Pike as well.
If it were out of those two, I think if it were out of those two, I think Burnham should have the command, because I think that Saru is still, you know, he's still going through his changes and what have you, so he might be a bit unstable. He's still learning to deal with like not being afraid.
But as Pike's made him acting captain?
Pike was going to, well, he made him acting captain because Burnham obviously had to be in the time suit.
Oh right, yeah.
But then they said something like, "We'll figure it out later."
Yeah, that's Saru right.
Saru actually like skirts the issue. Like he kind of is like, "Well, I don't know if I'm ready." You know, this kind of like thing. Yes, it's true.
I want them to do something completely unexpected. I want them to arrive in the future and crash. And then you have the entire season is basically surviving on a planet or something like that. Like, just do something that is totally unexpected, something like that really gives us character moments.
Like the finale of Voyager season 2, but like over a whole season, right? Like where they're on a planet and they have to survive.
Yeah, like
Discovery
Basics.
Basic Discovery Basic.
But they have to really
have the case on.
So you have them basically repairing the ship throughout the season, but then they really have to learn how to survive, and so it would like give you an opportunity to show us different environments on a planet, because like, come on, not a planet is just like a desert or just an ice thing. Planets have, you know, environments just like ours. I think that would be very interesting, or something like that, something a bit
at the end of the episode. Burnham says she's setting coordinates for Terra Elysium 950 years in the future. So they're definitely going to be in the beta quadrant. So if the spore drive breaks and they can't get back to the alpha quadrant, certainly I like that idea that you presented. Maybe they crash land on Terra Elysium. You know, who knows? It'll be interesting.
Who
It'll
knows?
be interesting.
Who knows? It could be anything. I mean, honestly, maybe it could be just as simple as they appear and then, they get contacted by Starfleet that still exists. And they're like, hey, weren't you the ship that disappeared so many years ago? And then, that carries on. It could be, they could really do anything with this. It really depends on what they want. I just hope there's no time travel involved. I don't want them to come back.
I don't
want
think they will. I don't think they will come back.
The time travel is over now.
Did the I mean, obviously, again, we don't want to go too deep into it. I know everyone loved the sequences with Spock and Pike, and that's why everyone wants a Pike-centric Star Trek show. But did the nice little bow that they said they were going to do to tie up all the questions about canon and things like that, did all that work for you guys? Like, did you guys like the way they explained why the Discovery, the Spore Drive, Burnham, all that stuff doesn't come into play later on?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I agree. In all fairness, I think that it's kind of harsh to say, "Oh, this is the end of the second season. You have to have it all tied up." They have until the show ends, right, to tie it all in a bow. If they have to come back and continue doing some, I would be very thankful if they went out and tried to fix the Klingons or establish that these Klingons that we saw came from the Outer Rim or something. But as it stands, yeah, I think it works. Essentially, what is it? For the general public, the USS Discovery was destroyed.
Right.
For Starfleet or Section 31 or something, the USS Discovery disappeared. Or into the future. For the people that were on the Enterprise, they're just not allowed to talk about it.
Right.
And so I suppose it makes sense that all of this is classified, and they also covered why no one uses holocommunicators anymore. It's too easy to hack, and then they had a problem with control. And in the first place, even before control appeared, it was creating all the problems on the Enterprise.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, on that front, yes, I think that they've pretty much sorted all that out.
Excellent. I have to admit, I was hoping as Star Trek Discovery went along, if it had stayed in this timeline that they were in, the time period that they were in, that we would eventually see a younger Captain Kirk as well. Maybe, because what did he serve in before the Enterprise?
He went to the same school the same year as Tilly, from what I understand.
Oh, cool.
So I think that would have been a really cool connection to have Kirk and Tilly basically be in the same class or something.
That would have been great.
That would have been really fun.
That would have been great.
And so because Kirk becomes a captain really, really soon. And so it would have been cool to have this kind of race between him and Tilly, who's going to get the captaincy first.
That's awesome. Yeah, actually, that's kind of cool. So, but say la vie, that would have created a lot of haters as well. So it's all right. Don't mess with Captain Kirk. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me. Again, I apologize that I was not quite myself, but you guys did a great job of keeping it lively for me, I hope, for the audience as well. Could you guys please sound off with all the stuff you'd like to promote, and tell my audience about what you're doing?
What are we doing?
Well, you're catching up.
What do we do?
Sean's catching up on all his videos that he has to do.
I'm catching up. I've been away for quite a while, and I'm very happy to be back with my friends talking Star Trek. I actually have basically half the season of Discovery to binge now, and take notes and really analyze and look at the Easter eggs, and I'll be doing all of those videos as soon as I can. I do apologize, I'm not quick on that. And hopefully I'll be up to date in time for when the next short treks come out or whatever. So yeah, that's me.
Great. And Rob, I have to be a good citizen and come into the Trek Book Club and get my bookmarks and get all these things. I need to get all this swag that everyone else is showing off on the internet. But could you tell everyone about the Trek Book Club and everything you're doing?
So I'm carrying on with my Trek book club, which is so we read a Star Trek book every month, and then we come together on Twitter and discuss it at the last weekend of every month. So this weekend is April's discussion. So we're discussing Star Trek Enterprise, Rise of the Federation, A Choice of Futures, which is like how the Federation starts, which is really good. So yeah,
Wow.
if you want to, if you're into Star Trek books, come and join in. If you haven't read any before, come and join in. If you've read lots before, come and join in.
And it's okay if we like listen to the audiobook, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I do a lot of driving, so it's easy for me to listen to audiobooks and stuff like that. So, and
that's a good idea, actually.
It's not as rewarding as reading. I mean, because you get to do all the voices and things in your head, but sometimes if it's read well, it's done.
Well, if you can find it read by someone like George Takei.
Oh my!
Well, the book for May at the moment there's a poll on Twitter at the moment. DS9's The 34th Rule is in the lead, and that's narrated by Armin Shimmerman.
Oh, neat.
So if that one wins,
that's pretty cool.
That would be one.
Excellent. And so, do you guys have a YouTube? I forget, or anything like you?
So we've got a website which is unsurprisingly trekbookclub.com,
right?
And on Twitter at trekbookclub, and a Patreon page which is patreon.com/trekbookclub.
Audience, get over there and contribute, and also become a member. And I'm gonna do my thing to get all my swag. I need it. I'm tired of being jealous of everyone. And then also we look forward to your videos, Trek on the Tube. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining us, and live long and prosper, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks.